What's up? Brett the Wizard. You know what? I have a special treat for you guys today because we're back at the Warplane Heritage Museum and I'm so excited about this. I'm brimming with energy. We've been here now for a few hours, just had the opportunity to finally get in front of the Lancaster. So, with that being said, I'm going to read some airplanes. The 113th, they ended up becoming part of kind of like the number 6 kind of group, but they mainly ran like a torpedo bomber role. They did do some strategic bombing as well. However, what this gentleman was saying, and from what I could read, is they kind of operated out of kind of northern Africa a little bit. They helped kind of fight with northern Africa. I guess I'm getting it on this one, so I am talking about the right stuff. I'm getting information correctly, which is awesome. This is exciting. And you know, and he isn't tied to this one specifically. It's just he just happens to be a pilot of that. I have no idea if the actual tail marker on this was part of that. Probably not, but with that being said, he isn't tied to the plane itself. He's just tied to the idea of the plane, the make, the model. And he takes great pride in it, and he's a little upset that it burned down. However, you know what? He understands that accidents happen. He died fairly young of health issues shortly after the war. He's not saying what, and I'm not getting anything that's feeling too out of place, so I'm not going to dig into that. Not because feeling someone's death kind of hurts. But he's really proud, and he likes a couple of the other airplanes that are in here too, which we will have one or two more. There's a tour group just to the side of us, so we got to wait for the Spitfire to clear out because that's another one. And I was really hoping the Lancaster would be here. But this gentleman here, believe it or not, he hangs out with the gentleman that hangs out with the Lancaster, and they kind of have a bit of a party once in a while. They like the Lancaster, so they've got lots of space, but there's a lot of other energies in here too. So that being said, we'll leave it at this one, and then we'll move on to the next one. We're now in front of this one here. This is the F-86 Sabre, and I had originally thought that I was reading another airplane, and so let's do true to the actual aircraft that I was reading. And so basically, this one here was used during the Korean War and shortly after as well by the U.S. And it actually turns out that the gentleman that's kind of tied to this, like I had previously described, was VHL, a little stockier, not fat, red hair, which was rare at the time, and he kept describing. He still is describing how aggressive he was because he had to be. He had to be able to keep up. He had to be able to outgun what was going on in that war and the conflicts and all that and what was going on. And this gentleman, he's really aggressive. Like he's happy that everybody's here watching everything. And again, he kind of said the same thing like what the Spitfire gentleman did, where he's sitting there going, "Why are you paying attention to me? What's going on? Why me? Why people come here for the planes, not for what's tied to the planes?" And well, no, I'm here for what's tied to the planes. So this gentleman here, I would say he's probably about 30-ish, on the upper end, what he probably shouldn't be flying. And he's kind of showing me different spots on different things where he fought in the war, shortly after the war, in the Korean War. And and he got a good number of kills, not a lot considering how this aircraft performed compared to the Russian MiGs at the time, which my father kindly filled me in on that. And he kind of describes, as long as you got the drop on him, you're okay. When you didn't get the drop on him, that's it. You're done. And this gentleman here, he liked the versatility of this. He liked the speed, the fact that you were able to kind of handle most turns relatively well. He liked the fact that, as I say, from one of my social unacceptable things, it pews really well too. It's got lots of things that put lots of things in the air, and that generally you'll hit something. But with that being said, this now is it's got stamped RCAF on it, so I'd imagine that the Canadians ended up buying some at some point in time. And now he's still kind of tied to it. Is he the pilot of this specific one? No, he's not. But in a warehouse or a hangar full of aircraft, anything that is tied to it, anything that's tied to somebody, anybody who may have had something to do with any type of these aircraft, you generally stay around it because that's what you like, that's what you do. So with that being said, that's all for the Sabre. Let's move on to the next one. Behind me here, you so can't see, you have a Spitfire. There was a tour group that was here just a little while ago, so I had to calm things down a little bit. But there's a gentleman that's sitting right on the wing right behind me here. He's a little reluctant to talk. He hasn't said he won't give me information, but he also said that he's not going to help either. So we'll see what I can do. I'm trying to work on it right now, but the airplane itself has some new stories. So let's just move in just a little bit. So this is one of the Spitfires. I don't know too much history about it. Father could speak more to it. There's a lot of other people who can give you the specs, what they did, all that different kind of stuff. But with this one here, it's no coincidence that it's here. It ran, from what I can tell, on a couple of different escort missions. Well, more than a couple, probably had, I want to say 6 different pilots for this one specifically. Not saying that any of them died in combat, because obviously this plane's still here. It's still flying, it's fully operational, much like most of the aircraft here. But this airplane here managed to do, I want to say upwards of probably 200 or 300 missions probably before it basically got grounded because of damage, but not crippling damage, just damage. It did a whole bunch of escort runs, mainly is what it used for, but also in the Battle of Britain, I do see that this had a bit of a part in it as well, a little later on in the process. Obviously, Spitfires, they're a bit more maneuverable. My father had given me a bit of information saying that they came in later in the war, versus the Hurricane that was in the previous segment. They were the older pieces of technology, and so these here, as much as these were saying, hey, let's, these were the showboats, so to speak. The Hurricane did all the work. And this one here, yes, it did a lot of showboating, so to speak. Oh, there we are. There's the gentleman I was willing to talk. He's apparently not happy that I'm not telling things correctly. But he's not yelling at me. He's just trying to tell me how it should be. And he is saying that they did run a lot of bomber escorts. He's saying that they ran short-range interceptions. They did a little bit kind of going across the channels here and there. But the neat thing about it is this gentleman, he was one of the pilots of this specific aircraft before he got injured. And he got injured on a training incident outside of the aircraft and everything else doing PT, that's what he's saying. For the scene, he's got a bit of a limp, so I think he fell and broke his leg the wrong way or his ankle, something like that. Yes, because I'm starting to feel the tension in my right leg, somewhere in the shin, so he couldn't quite operate the pedals correctly for your tail wing. So obviously, operating aircraft. So he himself, he's apprehensive because everybody comes to see the aircraft. Nobody comes to see him. Nobody knows that he's there, or nobody pays enough attention to see that he's there. And that's why he was a little apprehensive to talk to me, because his first question was, why are you talking to me? I don't understand why, what's your interest in me? And now that I've kind of showed him some positive affirmations and some positive energy, he's now starting to talk to me. In fact, he's literally standing like right here. Like he's got his hand on my shoulder. It's kind of creepy, actually. It's been a long time since I had something just kind of sit there and lean on my shoulder. But he's taller. He's probably a little this tall. He's got a little bit of facial hair, but not a lot, because they had to be able to put the oxygen mask right to their face, so I had to have a fairly tight fit. He's wearing, I want to say a grayish, might be green kind of jumpsuit, which is what you would kind of think. Yes, great psychic work, Brett. We're in a war museum, and but that's what he's wearing. He's wearing kind of that era, World War II, and near the end of the war. He came in a little later, and he managed to get one. He he's saying 6, but I see 8, but he can only confirm 6 kills before he got injured, and then he ended up starting to train other people a little bit because he was considered a veteran with having 6 kills. And he's not telling me his name because he can't remember his name. Because he died of a massive headache, so probably head injury or some type of illness that kind of affects your memory, because you can't remember what his name was in his last life where he was his pilot. But anyways, guys, this segment's done. On to the next one. Okay, so this is what we came here for today. And I am so excited to be able to do this. I have chills running down my spine right now. And this here is the Lancaster, one of the only last 2 that they have in the world that's still flying, if I understand correctly. And this one here is where we've been all morning / early afternoon, is at their Warplane Heritage Museum in Hamilton beside the airport. And this one here really perplexed me when I first came here with my kids, because I thought I was only, when I started channeling, I thought I was only channeling one person. Well, it turns out I was channeling 3 or 4 separate people through different aircraft, which we've done in previous segments. And this one here it's unique because I did a bit of research prior to this to help dig and get names and validate information. And it didn't make sense, because there's a gentleman that he calls himself Arthur James Stevens. Whether it's Stevenson or Stevens, I couldn't quite get that out very clear, but it's Stevens or Stevensons. There's a couple of Stevensons and other things too. However, the bomber groups that they're with and everything else didn't line up with any of the Lancaster bomber groups, any of the number 6 groups, any of the 331s, 313s, or 113s. So this is where I was kind of messed up a little bit. I didn't understand where it was coming from. But he hangs out in the aircraft, and he's not a malevolent spirit. He's very happy that the aircraft is maintained. And just even now, like, he's almost. No, you can't really see that. Because he wants to come out, but he's a little uncomfortable around people because he doesn't understand, and he doesn't understand. Again, like everything else in here, they're not expecting this. They're not expecting somebody to look for them as opposed to looking at the aircraft. But anyways, one of these sections of these wings were replaced by a Lancaster that took part in one of the bombing raids in Germany, and that's where he came from. I could not place it. I could not understand where he came from, and it's right in on their website bio about this aircraft that they had a section of wing that they had to salvage off of an aircraft out Germany way in Europe that ironically took part in one of the bombing raids. So that's where it came from, because I couldn't find his name in anywhere. So he wasn't part of the RCAF, and he might have been part of the RAF. I'm not too sure. I've been able to dig much further on that. I could be off on the name too. After all, I can be wrong. I am human. But this particular aircraft has never seen combat. It was built near the end of the war, and now I'm reading the airplane mixed with a bit of history here. It was built near the end of the war in 1945, and it was shipped over, but it was never actually used. It was brought up for reserve. So they may have flown it for a bit of training, perhaps. They may have, did all the maintenance on it, did whatever they had to do, but they never actually flown it in combat. So then it got brought, and it was used for ocean patrols and that stuff before it ended up becoming decommissioned. And it still flies, it still works. It was out in the tarmac there for our first little bit here, and I was quite bummed. I'm glad I could do this. And the energy I get off of this is just amazing, because so many people see it. So many people have flown in the Lancaster bombers in general, and a lot of them, especially now that I've talked to Arthur, a lot of them are starting to come through. I have 5 or 6 others that are now trying to tell me stories of bombing raids in Berlin, bombing raids in North Africa, Italy, France. Even doing the short hops over the Channel in Britain to break up the German lines. If I could make a whole video just on that and keep your guys' attention, I would. But for now, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at this. Thank you very much, everyone. So, I know I said basically the last one, but literally when I said there's 5 or 6 that were there, literally there were 5 or 6. So I just couldn't resist channeling at least one of them. And this one here, I had one line in my notes where it said that, you know, the German anti-air fire was so heavy, you could feel the hull rattling, you could feel the turbulence, you could hear the compressions. This gentleman blew out his eardrum. He was half deaf in one ear. And this is a British gentleman. I say gentleman because I see him only being about 19 or 20 years old, very young. And he ended up getting some shrapnel in his leg. So this gentleman, there's one line in my notes where I got something about an imagery of this gentleman getting shrapnel in his leg. And I just found this gentleman, he was one of them who came through. He was part of one of the squadrons of the part of the wing of the repair. He wasn't necessarily attached to it, but they just happened to come through, which is awesome. I'm so happy that it did that. And so this gentleman, he worked the back gun. He worked the back gun, and what had happened was a German round came through and ripped into his leg, so he had a limp for the rest of his life. He only lived to be about 30 years old because he died of a heart attack because he didn't know how to stop drinking and doing his drugs. But with that being said, he served on one of the crews. And this gentleman, he was part of one of the initial onslaughts to help back off the Germans in the Battle of Britain. After that, he ended up getting injured and he ended up having to stop serving, and he ended up becoming a flight mechanic, I believe is what I'm showing him as. And he's got a great laugh, a great sense of humor, and he really loves the aircraft. He loved working on it, he loved working on the engines. Most importantly, he loved working on doing the skidding work. His name was, I want to say Jerry, could be Jeremy, I'm not sure. Jerry sounds right. Stocky gentleman, because after his injury he couldn't work out. And he, like I said, died about 30. And yeah, that's what I got. He was showing me doing the first set of onslaught to help kind of push things back after the Germans started attacking. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching.